this is the meeting for Astara, and at 7:30 is Kat's meeting for Spellwork 2.
Spellwork 2.
Spellwork 2.
Yep.
So
For the beginner witch series.
yeah, just making sure you're in the right place. Since we do have 2 scheduled on the same day, it's kind of.
Oh, that looks good.
What? Yeah, my top.
Although you don't see that part of us.
No, okay, well, just to be sure. You guys say my dress is like a wrap dress, but the girls were really trying to
Jump out
yeah. So
and be seen.
I had to go put a tank top over them for the cleavage because I didn't need like a Janet Jackson type, nip slip something or another happening. That would not be good. That would not be good.
Oh my gosh, speaking of that, so last night I've watched, who's a fan of Bridgerton? Anybody? I love that show. And the 25th is coming, the 2nd season, but I watch it over and over again because it's so lighthearted and stuff and romantic. I love it. But I was watching last night and I swear I'm gonna have to go back and backtrack, but I think there was a nipple showing.
Oh,
What do you call the brown part? Areola?
yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Areola.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that was shown because they wore their dresses and you watch it like their boobs are shoved way up to here and they're like sticking out. Like, oh, nip slip.
That's probably a good way to have a costume accident. We wore those. What's that thing called? That they cinch
The corset.
in. The corset.
They want to call my daughters call it the corset. I'm like,
call
it's
it
a corset.
A corset. Well, being a larger chested woman, my sister and I have worn the corsets. Did I say it right? Corset.
Yeah, now you got me confused.
And bending over was really dangerous because like gravity and it just kind of all moves. We had them tied onto us so tight that it stayed in our middle area. But then, the girls are just like, we're having a party.
I love Downton Abbey too, Raquel. One of my favorites.
She loves the old European
period
stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because I know that I lived then. So, and I'm fairly certain I was a queen or at least a princess.
Lived in the castle. There were many, duchesses and things. I mean, that's
no, I had more power than that. I can just feel it, It's like I'm the princess and the pea when something's in my shoe or anything like that, like the littlest thing like really annoys me.
My sister inherited that from me.
Yeah.
She can't stand anything uncomfortable with clothes or socks or shoes.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. Well,
I said we get started.
Yeah.
We have 10 people.
Yeah,
and
I'm good with that.
Come in. So.
Perfect. All right, so you're watching that. We keep having to switch duties, so at the next meetup, I gotta let people in. And I'll be good at that. I'll be good.
Okay.
So you guys, today we are talking about Ostara, the official holiday, because it is something that happens in the sky. So this is actually tracked by NASA when the vernal equinox happens. And the word vernal is really just the Latin word for spring or spring of, which is just the VER. So you don't have to call it the vernal equinox. You can just call it the spring equinox.
Thank God, because I don't think I could remember that.
Vernal. The name.
That's an odd name. And I would be like, how do you spell that?
Yeah, Latin. We the way that our languages all mesh together and how we got things that come from each other. But the holiday that the ancients celebrated was called many different things, but in general, when we put all the holidays together, the guy who named the 8 holidays, Gerald Gardner, brought the holidays into centered it around one Celtic goddess, and her name was Astara, or is Astara. I guess she can't really die, huh? But we don't celebrate her as much in that name as we do celebrate all the things associated with this time of year. So if you think of it's Ostara with an O, but across all of the lands in like Europe and all that, they all had different ones of Astara, Asteris. So they're all originating from the word east, which is where dawn comes in. So Ostara was the goddess of dawn and of spring to bring in the light after the long winter. I'm not even on the right card. Love that. So it is coming this Sunday, where our holidays that we celebrate often last for many weeks. you would have already been seeing the signs of spring. And if you're like us, we live in Florida, it's kind of hard to notice spring coming because things stay green here a lot. But in other places where everything really dies off, people can really see spring hitting and things popping through the ground and trees getting tiny buds on them and stuff, and just marvel at that things go dormant and look dead, and yet there is life. That's part of the cycle with it. Okay, so that's what we're celebrating, is the sun is returning to the midday sky. So if you're higher up on the earth, closer to the pole, you would have a much shorter day. Like, we're closer to the equator, so our days vary like 10 hours to 14 hours. So we don't have a huge time shift, but the closer that you get to the pole, people out there go like 3-4 days or 3-4 hours of light, and then they're dark. So this is the actual midway point where we have equal day and night. So vernal meant spring, equinox means equal night. So that's a way to remember. We have 2 equinoxes throughout the year. We have the spring, and then we have the fall. I almost said winter, the fall equinox. So we have 2 times of the year where we have an equal amount of daylight and sunlight. And so we may look at this astrologically, or NASA tracks it to a day and point of time that it's equal for somewhere in the world. But each of you can look at an app or your daytime calendar, and you can figure out which day actually in your area you'll have the exact same amount of hours of daylight and the exact same amount of hours of nighttime. So I didn't look mine up this year. I knew it last year, but it is somewhere around the 20th. You're looking at a day or two before or a day or two after that specific date.
But like all of the holidays, we celebrate
the season.
As the season,
Yeah,
right? Kind of
the
like
season.
my birthday month is the whole season.
It's a whole
The whole
season.
month of November, I'm celebrating my birthday. I hope you guys are too. It's a big deal,
It's
right?
the Scorpio season. You gotta celebrate the
you
whole
gotta
time.
celebrate the whole thing.
Okay. So I said all of those things on that card, and I'm not supposed to be on that one yet. No. The thing that I really love to retell you guys is the stories, because if you look around, like, we know that Americans know that Easter is really centered around Christianity and the story of Jesus resurrecting.
His resurrection.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
So, did you know that they switched the time of year that he died to be in the spring, so that when people celebrated the return of a light, it only made sense for it to be in the springtime? So the actual recorded time of year when Jesus died is no longer available. They just switched it to the springtime. And it always falls on a different day because they never want it to match up with a full moon that happens around Astara. So that's why Easter is a floating holiday, and it doesn't have like a set date like Christmas does. Because for Yule, our holiday that is also celebrated, where there's a death, or no, that's a birth.
That's
the birth, that we've got the winter season starting, and sort of like, then you got to grow the returning of the light. So they switch the dates around, and we don't care. We still get to celebrate what we want, have all of our decorations around, and nobody thinks twice about it. So that works for me. I love seeing all of the Easter eggs and the bunnies and all the pastels. I'm like, this has nothing really to do. Yeah, I'm like, it's not really super Christian, so I just like that they're okay with it still. And the commercialization of the holidays definitely makes it a lot easier. And the stories. So the stories that go along with it, if you've never heard them, my most favorite one to tell is the story of Astara. The origin of this is not known. They think that it came about in like the 1700s, which means that it's not an ancient story. But remember that from long ago, stories were only passed down through families and retold to children. And nobody ever thought to put it in a book or write it down, because that just wasn't common to do for our old stories, like 5,000 years ago.
Well, they didn't have anything to do either, so
Yeah. Well,
except sit around and tell stories. There was no internet, television. I mean, it was entertainment.
Entertain us.
Yeah.
And as people were in wintertime, you had to tell the story of renewal and rebirth, which is Astara's time right now. This is the time when it's like, things will get green again. The sun will come back. Like, we won't be cold forever. So this is one of the stories that they told, that the goddess Astara as she brings the dawn every day. So it doesn't matter whether it's in wintertime, springtime, fall, or whatever. She's the goddess of the dawn. But specifically, she helps things thaw out and regrow for the springtime. So the story of her is sort of the way they tell it in a very fast mode. She's walking through the forest and she's sort of like bringing up the small flowers and the buds, asking the trees to bloom again, calling the animals out of their hibernations, just so she's bringing forth life. So now we have to go back to the fall and a very irresponsible little bird. Okay, so imagine how this plays out in families when they're trying to teach their kids responsibility. Then you have to collect the harvest, store it, don't get into it, or you won't make it to spring. A female bird who wanted to play and be with all her friends, it's very, what do you call that? Animalism, the animals have like personalities and they get to talk to each other. So it's like a Disney movie. This little bird is going around like, hey, squirrel, let's play. And he's like, no, I got to store the nuts for the winter. And then, goes to the bunnies, goes to the whoever, goes to the foxes. And all of her friends are busy getting ready for winter. And she's like, yeah, I just want to have fun. Why does nobody want to play? Like, I think we should just lollygag, skip around the forest and play all the time. Sound like children? Sound like me?
Sound like you when you were a child,
yeah.
yes.
I was
And
the
now
lollygagger.
sometimes a little bit.
A little bit. Okay. We don't outgrow everything.
That's a good thing.
So then, all the birds that she knew start to fly south. And she's like, you guys want to fly for like an entire month just to go somewhere else to live? Like, this place is perfect. Like, we're going to live here. So obviously she's a new bird and hasn't experienced winter before. So she decides she's not going to fly. She obviously did not harvest anything to keep for winter because that's not what birds do. So as she's slowly starving and dying through the winter season, Astara, as she's bringing in the light, bringing life back into the forest, comes upon the bird in a path. And the bird is desperately pleading, like, please save me. Now I realize everything that I did was foolish and I want to be, a good bird. I don't know. That's ad-libbing. But that she's asking Ostara, like, please save me, and it wasn't bring me back to life because she wasn't dead yet. And Ostara is like, I don't have the power to bring the dying body back to life, but I do have the power of transformation. So renewal, rebirth, transformation, changing. So instead of letting the bird die, she says, I can make it to where you never have to leave for winter. And she turns the female bird into a bunny or a hare or a rabbit, whatever you want to call it. And so not changing obviously the sex of the animal. This is why we have a bunny rabbit who lays eggs, because upon her first realization that she can still lay eggs, and I don't know if you guys know this, but birds can lay eggs and that are not fertilized. They just do that when they are nutrient rich. They can just go ahead and pop out eggs and just leave them places. That's crazy. So when the bunnies started laying eggs, she decided she would give it to Astara. And so this is why we give each other decorated eggs, because that was one of the first things the bunny did to repay Astara for keeping her alive and giving her a new body, giving her that transformation, the rebirth into something else. So in that story are all of the energies surrounding this time. You've got transformation, changing old habits, like bringing balance to yourself, letting go of things that don't serve you. So when I think of the bunny dying, I think about things that are like a killjoy for your soul that just kind of leave you like just on a path left for dead. Like, I wish I didn't have to deal with that. So right now is a time to change habits and do transformations for yourself. So that's the story of why we have the Easter bunny, the Ostara bunny. Next, so that's the reason that story is the best to begin with, is because eggs have always been given because they're a symbol of fertility. They're a symbol of wealth, and they're given to people to like promote them, to say, I hope you have a good crop. I hope your children are healthy. I hope your household does well. So eggs throughout, all the ancient civilizations were given. They found eggs that are over 5,000 years old that are carved and decorated. Some of them are ostrich eggs, and they're found in areas where there's never been an ostrich. So you can imagine that people traveled with these possessions because they were gifts and they were highly valued for what they were, symbols of prosperity and to bring in good luck, like a good luck charm. So when Christianity was taking the forefront of the world and getting rid of all of our ancestors, one of the things that they could tell when there was a pagan living in a place is because during this time of year, pagans would decorate eggs. So they would give them to each other, and they often displayed them in their windows. And you're probably thinking like an egg left in a windowsill, not a great idea, it rots. No. Did you know that an unfertilized egg kept at a decent temperature can stay good for 4 weeks or longer? And remember, these stories come from Europe, which their springtime is way colder than here in Florida. I don't think an egg is lasting 4 weeks here for us, but in other places it
Definitely
could.
not. We just turned the air on this afternoon.
We had heat on 2 days ago because it got down to 45. Now we're at 82. Florida doesn't know what it's doing. So the egg hunts actually started because pagans still wanted to do their ritual of exchanging eggs. And instead of displaying it in their window, knowing that they would be called out for it, they would hide them in their gardens, next to the crops, next to the thing that they were trying to bring fertility to. So it could be in a bedroom now instead of in the windowsill or on the porch. So they started hiding the symbols that were with their, I almost said religious, with their practices, with their spiritual practices. So who do you think the Christians had look for eggs in places like gardens and people's houses?
Children.
Little children, because children can be trusted, right? Leave a little. All right. So now we've got kids going through your garden, looking for eggs and possibly turning you into the authorities. Well, how do you think we bribe children?
Candy.
Sweets, coins, like whatever they could put under there.
Think Halloween.
I mean, so this is why we have treat-filled eggs, is because this was a battle between getting, like, knowing who you could trust, basically, earning trust or bribing people into doing the thing. So that is sort of the original Easter egg hunt. And, you know, unfortunately, back in the day, it probably ended in some deaths or like people thrown in prison. But this is where we hide the things sacred to us so that we can't be persecuted for them. That is the Easter eggs. Eggs in general, being as delicate as they are always placed in a container, or this is where you get the baskets and things. They're placed in something where they're not going to get knocked about. Until an egg really has a smell, which is 10 days after it's outside, it's not really subject to animals either. But when animals used to eat the eggs, that was a sign of the earth accepting the blessing. So this was not a bad thing. So if you ever leave eggs out and you worry about it, not a bad thing. It's kind of like actually going out and setting up an honor plate for, you know, a deity, a spirit animal, the earth in general. It all just goes back to the earth. All right, so that's Easter egg hunt. And I didn't really go over decorating, but decorating has been going on. Like I said, the oldest egg that I know of is 5,000 years old. It is an ostrich egg, and it was found, I think it was found in a tomb. I'm actually not sure now. I can't remember. But the fact is that this person had carried this egg around with them for so long, and they took notches out of the top. And so slowly throughout their life, it was almost like a offering, or like, okay, I've used this much of my prosperity or this egg's gift or something. So I thought that was really interesting that they sort of felt like the egg had a life, and it was just the shell, obviously. It wasn't the whole egg. I probably should have said that. The egg shell being so hard with the ostrich egg that it could be carved down slowly, you know, as long as it was taken care of. And so people would carve all kinds of stuff into the shells, not just really dyeing it. Dyeing it is definitely a modern thing. There's no real story of how it originated. It just started making it more fun for kids to find the eggs and eat them.
I'm sure that was some company would dye. It was like, I'm going to make money and tell people that they need to dye their eggs
to make it more the commercialization of the holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
So whichever part you want to take part in, make sure you do it because you like it, not thinking that it has some really old spiritual meaning. It's mostly about making things fun, keeping things like light, and adding a bit of spiritualism to it. It's like, it's symbolic, the egg, but all of the fun things that you do with it they're just about having a good time, you know, reawakening that childlike spirit within you. Okay, those are my favorite. Those are the stories. I love telling them. I tell them all year round, whoever's willing to listen, because I think they're just fascinating. So next I have activities, because this is where you can really like look around outside, do anything in nature that you can, depending on where you live in the world or in the US. Wherever you visit, watch the earth transform so quickly. And so it does it like right in front of our eyes over a couple of weeks, but think about how much energy and effort it takes for that plant to push through from a seed that was actually dropped in the soil last fall. So it's just been sitting under the ground, sort of hanging out, waiting for the right condition to spring forward. Again, that's the energy of this time. Things that are lying deep inside of us that are waiting to spring forward into action. So for activities, anything that adds color, go crazy with color. Wear colors you've never worn before. You know, I was going to say put color in your hair, but I just stripped my hair of color one time and that wasn't fun. So, but anything that adds color is bringing in the spring vibe, right? I already talked about the eggs. Oh, one of the things that they did in the early 1900s was they would use the dye from root vegetables, or yeah, so they would use the staining of like the beets, and I wasn't thinking
Carrots
will stain, cabbage. So the things that can last through winter, they would actually use that if they were going bad. They're like, they would separate it out knowing like this will be used for arts. They did fabric dyeing, you know, dresses if they wanted to make material. So try that. I've never done that. I do the simple way. I get like just vinegar and dye and do it that way, but you can't. It's basically a fermented vegetable turns into a really good dye. Oh, stone eggs. So this is something that's pretty big with like gemstone or semi-precious stones, where you see the eggs that are carved into you see the stones that are carved into eggs. With that, those are prosperity symbols. So if you're ever wondering like, why are there all these egg-shaped stones and what do they mean? Where do they go to? Because for us, it's like eggs really are just Easter, or, you know, we eat them. But now you can look at them and say like, this is all right, say for instance, it's a rose quartz egg. That would be an abundance or prosperity egg for love, self-love, love of others. So if you find a stone in an egg shape, know that that's what you can place in your house for or on your altar. Some people engrave them. I don't have any of those because I have really small ones. I have like 5 or 6 little small ones, but you can find them engraved that people do. Next is painting stones. Have you ever painted stones and put them in your garden?
No, but I want to. I picked up one. Somebody put them out in my neighborhood, like by the side of the road, and said, take one. So I did. And it's in one of my plants. I love it.
Is it a painted rock?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, with little saying on it. I thought it was so cute. Whoever the neighbor was just putting them out there for people to take.
I love that.
I do too.
So that is some way that you can add color to somebody else's day. Like when you find, I don't know if you've ever been in a park where you find a random placed rock that has like a smiley face on it or a flower or some kind of artwork, and you're just like, oh, somebody left that there. And it kind of brings you that like, oh, I love that. That's so cute. If you've ever done geocaching, it's sort of like that, but you know, they're put in more plain sight. So paint some stones, leave them in parks, give them to people, set them on your windowsill as a symbol of spring's colors and bringing in abundance. Give them away, put them in your garden, put them in a potted plant if you don't have a garden. All those are good ideas. And then planting seeds. I love this one, you guys. Seeds create themselves, right? Like we don't have to do anything to the plant besides neglect it for it to create a seed. It needs to go to the death phase in order to create the seed. The flower bloom needs to. So you can go through and find seeds, and then you can plant them in random places. And I have done this, and then I just see what happens. I'm like, it'll do what it does, right? Like that's nature. Just let the seed do what it does. I've done it with morning glories, and my goodness, prolific. I have an entire wall, solid wall of morning glory flowers now. And then I guess about a month ago or maybe 6 weeks ago, I found an old packet of sunflower seeds, like not the eating kind, but actual seeds. And I just thought I'd throw them out in my garden. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about them until I started getting sunflowers popping up. Like, I guess I didn't spread them out much. They're all in a clump. So I've got this huge stock of sunflowers instead of doing it like in a line. But grab it, throw it in the ground and see what happens. Even if you do it in a park, imagine somebody is surprised that they're like, there's just random ass sunflowers growing over there. How did that happen?
I love that.
Yeah. Add surprise to somebody's day. And then, the final thing, which is so easy to do, and what I usually do if I don't make a whole thing of celebrating any of the holidays, I always leave a plate of some kind of food. And you do not have to get specific with what it is, but I would say non-processed, fresher food, fruits and vegetables, nuts if you want, and take a plate of food out into the woods somewhere, probably not a park, but the woods, and leave it. And you're basically, that's an offering plate for things coming, out of hibernation, things coming back. They're like, damn, where's the food? I need some. You're helping nature get through this next cycle. So those are activities. And if nothing else, just add color. Like we throw on crowns every time there's a holiday. We make a new little type of crown around the colors of that holiday. So we're very,
Jamie
spring.
does it. Super. Jamie makes them.
I love to. Crafts are my thing.
She's so good at it.
Okay, so the last two cards I have are a little heavier because this is really for you. If you want to use the energy of this time of year for growth for you, I wrote down some things. I wrote down like 4 question reflection things. And then for spells, if you're looking at doing any ideas for spells, I wrote down like 7 types of spells to do stuff with. And they're not like written out spells. They're just ideas of spells to do. So the very first thing, and this is sort of what we talked about with what Ostara does. Winter has just ended, right? So we're officially in spring, even though I feel like in bulk is also spring, but whatever it means for you. At this time right now, the dark time of the year, the dark half of the year, because this is the equal day and night, we're building in light. Our days are getting longer than our nights. What is ready to push through the surface and bloom for you? So is there a hobby you've been wanting to pick up? Is there a habit or a change in your life that you've been wanting to make? Whatever that urge is that's been sort of like bubbling up, like, and you've been saying it to yourself, I really need to, I really want to.
I
wish
just
I had
did that
time
today.
for-
How weird. I did not know that.
I know I didn't say anything to you when you told me. Like, that's
I
totally
literally
fine.
just made a move this morning on something I've been thinking about for at least 3 weeks.
Yeah. She's in with the energy right now.
That always happens to me.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, I feel like it's my
lived-
spirit guides guiding me.
Yeah, and imagine that we lived in this manner of doing things in that way for so long before our modern world that we still kind of get into
It's
those
in our
things.
DNA.
Yeah, it's like our physical bodies are like, yeah, we know this is the time to change. What are we changing? What are we doing? Okay, so what I put down is habit changes, always health. Everybody should always be looking at their health, assessing, balancing, looking for ways that you can improve it so that you can be there for others, be there for yourself. And then I put relationships, because as much as we need food and water to survive, our relationships are equally as important. And if they're bad, it's just like eating McDonald's every day. Like, they are not good for your health. Soul, health,
Well,
body. It's
all of
body.
it, yeah.
We're thinking more in the physical right now.
Mm.
Okay, so the second question that you can do for reflection is, what changes need to be addressed that you've been putting off? So this isn't things sort of bubbling under the surface. This is like you've been making excuses on why it's not time to do this yet, this thing. Procrastination. That's winter's game, procrastinating. So what changes need to be addressed that you've been putting off? And I'm not telling you to change it yet, but really write it down, put it at the forefront, set it somewhere where you can see it and be like, so what is stopping me from making these changes? What is the excuse I use? If you keep saying it's not the right time, when is the right time? What does that look like for you? That's a heavy one. Next is using this time of year's energy to awaken a gift or a talent within yourself. If you're new or on your spiritual journey or in witchcraft and you really want to know how to do blank, tarot cards, any kind of other divination, know all the stones, complete at least 10 spells, make workings towards knowing more about astrology, whatever it is, you're drawn to something and that's wanting to be awakened within you. And it doesn't mean that sometimes what happens is we get really worried about the commitment. We're like, oh God, if I want to learn astrology, That's going to be a year. That's going to be study. That's going to be months. Instead of worrying about that, you'll be really surprised that when you're drawn to get into something that you'll get so far in it and you'll have these like epiphanies and then you're on to the next thing. And that's okay. Allow yourself to get to that point where you learn something really valuable. And if you want to set that hobby or change aside for a little bit and like focus on what you just learned and how to apply it, you can do that. So don't take that thing on as so heavy that it's going to, you know, now you have no social life. You'll be indoors all the time, reading and writing and studying the cards or something. But
it reminds me of college. That's exactly.
You can't really put that off as much.
What I did. Gave up my life.
Yeah, God, college. Glad I'm done with
college
that.
And working full time.
Yeah. So what I put on there is like meditation and intuition. Those are probably the two biggest things that are associated, but people always ask me like how to better your intuition. You better your intuition through meditation, quieting the monkey mind chatter that goes on, where we're constantly talking to ourselves, and yet we don't really even acknowledge what we're saying. We're just kind of like, oh, that stupid A over there just cut me off. This happened. Oh, this is dumb. Quick story. I was at a restaurant yesterday, and the couple next to me, I've not been exposed to many what people call Karens. Like I've seen the memes and the videos.
Is there any Karens on here right now? I'm sorry if there is, or your mom's name Karen.
Oh, I thought you were saying they're Karens. No, like the name Karen.
I know. I was just making sure.
I'm not ready for that. I thought you were actually asking anybody if they think they're a Karen.
No, if their name was Karen, I was
sorry. Yeah, I didn't look at that.
You know, that kind of that.
It's a whatever the thing is.
Yeah. You guys are probably familiar with it.
Yeah. So my husband's always trying to explain it to me and give me examples. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I just think that's people like off their meds more so. Like that's what I think of. Anyways, at this restaurant, we sit down next to a couple. We're at like the bar part, getting ready to order food. They had ordered their food, and the guy looks over at me. So it's like him and the guy's wife, and then me, and then my husband. We don't know them. And he looks at me and he's like, I wonder how many things he's going to get wrong after what I just ordered. And I'm like, this is such a weird thing to say. Like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, like nervous laugh. Like, what do you say to that? So sure enough, the bartender who was ordering his food and whatever had such a hard time with these people. It was like 4 things wrong. He's like, well, you didn't do this. You didn't get my loyalty number. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And I was telling my husband, I said, see, this is what manifestation looks like, honey. The guy literally was expecting bad stuff to happen, like a bad exchange. And because he did, the universe provided it. The universe was like, oh, you want this to be a hard time? Here you go. Yeah. So meditation and like calming our mind chatter and really understand the things that we're saying and that they have real implications. When we get rid of that, you'll be amazed at how much smoother your life kind of goes, where you're not running into all these like stops and, you know, like BS happening to you. Okay. The last one is about a balanced life. Take that for what you will. There's a lot of people that's like, that's not a real thing, but what is balanced for you? There's no set amount of time that you should be at work or should be working out or should be with your kids or whatever. All of that is set by you. And it's whatever looks healthiest to you. Remembering that alone time is a must. Everybody needs alone time. You should be taking time for yourself. But here's the reflection question. Define what a balanced life looks like to you. So just define it. Throw it out there. And then start making small changes to make it look like that. Because what'll happen is you'll write this beautiful little balanced life list and you'll start trying to make it look like that. And as you lean more into other things and pull away from stuff, you'll be like, you know what? I actually don't want that. Now I realize it. And then you can stop beating yourself up for not doing the thing because you just worked yourself through it and you're like, I don't really want that. So now what? Now there's something else. Well, okay, what's the next thing that could bring balance to your life? So those were my 4 questions for like journal work, like getting inside and understanding what's going on with you to move forward in this time of rebirth, change, transformation, growth.
So weird. I have a story to
Yes.
I haven't shared this with you yet, but I've been having this thought in the last week or so. You know, for the longest time, I wanted a boyfriend, you know, somebody in my life, a relationship,
A romantic partner.
Yeah. And lately, just in the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking,
And we often have talked about like living the template and thinking that that's what you need to be whole is a partner or a kid or a job that looks a certain way,
Yeah.
You can start reflecting and seeing if that desire was something that was put on you by someone else, like society, or if it was really truly a longing for yourself.
I think I just always have had it. And so it's like, I've always been in relationships. And when I'm not, I'm like, oh, I got to be in a relationship. But now at this stage, I'm like, there's other things I want to do. Actually, there's other places I want to focus my energy. So
I love that.
That's just really, really. I just said it to myself today. I was sleeping. I was like, yeah, I think I actually want somebody in my life. I think I'm good.
I don't want to be sweeping up somebody else's.
I don't want to be cleaning up after
someone
and asking me what's for dinner and shit like that. Yeah, I don't know. What is for dinner?
It sounds like you do need to be alone for a little bit. I mean, I would really live in this.
I know. Well, my whole problem is I go all in with my relationships. Like everything is all about the other person because I'm just like the super giver or something. I don't know. It's my love language to do. Service is my love language. So yeah. All right.
I love your epiphany. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I don't have any, let's see. Denise said she's right there with me. Yeah. So
I was alone for 5 years and my mom and sister both told me that something was wrong with me. I'm going to end up a cat lady, which I also said was fine. I already had like 5 of them. So that was okay. But they, especially my sister, found it really hard that I wasn't in a relationship. She's like, you need a person. You got to be with somebody. How do you not have a man? Like, blah, blah. I was just like, I don't really need one. So, I can do everything on my own. You don't have to have a partner. And I haven't met anybody worthy. So damn it, stay single.
All right.
All right.
Spells.
Last thing, you guys, and then we'll open up the floor for any questions, but these are ideas for spells. And this is like broad topics. So you're going to be able to fill the blanks on stuff. So really this time of year is new anything. You want to do a spell for a new housemate, house, apartment, car, job, city to live in, new vacation, new bank account statement, new check in the mail, whatever it is for new anything is the theme and the energy around this time of year. Next is fertility. So actual baby making. If that's on your agenda, this is a good time to do it. If it's not on your agenda, get some protection stuff, birth control, condoms, whatever you got to use. Growth. Anything in growth. And so this is like personal growth within you. This is a really good time for people to have those epiphanies, to go and reflect on something and be like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And you come to your conclusion during this time. I put down to step out of an old habit or an old mindset. If there's something that you're really sick of doing, trying to make happen for you, figure out how you can get out of that and step into something that's more appropriate for you. A rebirth. So rebirth is so large, but this is basically any big change that moves something completely around. This could be redoing a room in your house. I keep hearing our flowers touch.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's just funny.
I'm just making notes. I'm making notes from her note cards.
That's not fair. So with rebirth, it's anything where you're just redoing something. So this could be like a really deep clean physically of a space. It could be redoing yourself, like getting all new makeup or all new products that are bunny free because you want to be like better for animals or the planet.
I'm going to get Botox. I didn't tell you that.
You're just full of not telling me stuff.
We just haven't had a chance to talk yet. She's been busy planning for Paris, shopping and all that stuff.
And a vacation overseas is rough. Or it's a lot to do. I guess so. That's my rebirth, new vacation. So I put in their hair, clothes, whatever it is, whatever you're dissatisfied with, redo that. Like redo your stuff.
I'm putting to my frown lines.
All right, next is abundance. And with abundance, you guys, I want you to be really specific and clear. So if you want to bring in abundance of wealth, like say the amount, say what you want to pay for, say what you want covered, and then you let the universe do the work. But I will warn you, it has to be something that you believe you can actually get. So if you do a spell for winning the lottery, you have to believe that you deserve lottery money. Like, so that's something to sort of work through. It sounds really weird to think of it and like claim it out loud. Like, I deserve to win $10 million. When you say that, do you believe it? Is your whole soul going like, okay, you do? Or is it kind of like, you're a fibber. You're not, what? That's not going to happen
Or
to
just,
you.
even if you're not a fibber, just that little self-doubt, that
Well, that's
inkling
what I
of
mean.
self-doubt where
Yeah.
you're like, I could never have. Oh, wait. Yeah.
So asking for abundance in spells is easy enough to do. The universe can provide you with anything, but you have to believe it, and you have to believe it and know you deserve it. I say deserve because when you know you deserve it, you know you believe it. So like if you can get to deserve really fast, you already know that you believe it. He was whining. It was right there, mommy. Look. You need to go outside? Come on. He's under the table poking at us. Next, the last two are love, which is any kind of love that you want to bring forward. Since this is a time for change and renewal, be careful of other people starting to change too, to where if you get into a relationship or you start something, allow them to go through their changes as they're trying to be new as well. Like if you're starting something new, don't get too pissed off if something doesn't, work out, or there's not a meshing, or there's a confusion. Like allow that to kind of work itself out and give it time, if that's something you're trying to call into your life. And I always say, love yourself first and then call in a partner. Last is purification. Every holiday is good for purification, but this one's a good one for purification because as things start to grow, if something is not working out and you've got the little dead leaves that you need to go out and prune and take off, purify it so fungus can't grow. So as you start building on something new, you really want to watch out for the things that you're trying to force that aren't working, and you leave it to kind of fester, because that's just going to be a whole new problem for the summertime. Things will get really hot and really messy. Are you good?
Yeah, he's outside.
Okay. That was my 7 spell ideas for you guys. If those are any of the things that you want to work on, resources are all over the place. I know the one that we mentioned that we talked about last week is that green book right there. The spell book for new witches. It's a great resource book. I'm not saying you need to follow it verbatim by any means, but it's a good resource book to give you ideas of what you can do to start your spells. All right, so with that, we're going to close out the meeting, I guess. Did we start the meeting? No,
we didn't do an intro, but that's our other stuff.
So. Okay. So we will shut off the recording. Yeah, want to say goodbye?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you for joining us for celebrating Astara. See you next time.